Hey guys, it's Mistarka, and we're going to go through and we're actually going to be labeling a map of ancient Mesopotamia. So we're going to go through this, talk through it together, and just kind of work through it. So as you can see, we have the continent of Asia here and the continent of Africa. So we're actually going to go in and we're going to label them in all capital letters so that we remember that they are continents. On the back, you saw that there was a list of all the things you need to label. And if it were me, you could just go, personally I would, and I would suggest that you go through and mark them off as you go. So we're going to label Africa, we're going to come over here and we're going to label Asia. So we would go O, and then we would just mark off Africa, mark off Asia. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to look at some of the bodies of water here. So this right here is the Mediterranean Sea, and it is a very large sea. So we're going to go in, and we are going to label it. And then we actually are going to go through, and for all of our bodies of water, we are going to actually color them in blue. So I'm going to need a colored pencil, or some other kind of color. But we're going to go in and we're going to take this body of water and we are going to label it, color it in blue, just neatly. Doesn't have to be perfect, but it does have to be neat enough that we can easily tell what we're looking at when we look at our map. And as you can see, there's a lot of islands in through here. So we're just going to go around those. And just coloring over the Mediterranean as well. And then we have that. So we're going to mark that. There's a couple other seas that we're also going to look at. For example, up here in this corner of our map up here, we have the Caspian Sea. So we're going to go in and we are going to label it. And then we're going to color it in. And it may be not as easy to see the blue on the camera from where I'm coloring over the gray, and that's okay. Other sea, because there's 3 seas we're looking at here, is the Red Sea, and it's actually right down here, okay? So it's the one that kind of looks like it has rabbit ears. So we're going to go in and we're going to label the Red Sea. And second verse, same as the first, going to go in and we're going to color it in with blue. So we've looked at the Mediterranean, we've looked at the Red Sea, we've looked at the Caspian Sea. Next thing that we're doing is a gulf. So a gulf is basically an area of water that leads into a larger body of water, is kind of the short version. Okay, so we have the Persian Gulf, so labeled because modern day Iran, near what they used to call Persia, is right there, which funnily enough ties in very well into what we're talking about with Mesopotamia. So we're going to go in, we are going to color it in blue, and now we're done with everything except our rivers. So Mesopotamia is called the land between rivers. That's literally what Mesopotamia basically boils down to meaning when you actually look at the word. And there's 2 rivers here that we're going to look at, and that's the Euphrates River and the Tigris River. So We're going to label these right just beside the river. Tigris River is on the top, Tigris on the top, and we got the Euphrates River. And just like with the others, we're going to go in and we are going to just outline them in blue. And you'll see that there's some tributaries as we get down towards the end here. Just going to highlight those in blue as well. And you'll notice that it flows straight into the Persian Gulf here, connecting. And the Euphrates. So now we've got all of our bodies of water. So the next thing that we actually are going to do is we're going to take just a little bit of a space somewhere off to the corner here, and we're going to kind of do two things. First off, we are going to make a key so that we can put in some information. So we're just going to divide out some space that we'll save for that. And we are also going to create a compass rose. And we are going to label it with our cardinal directions. So north, south, east, and west. Never eat soggy waffles, never eat sour wheat, whatever it is, right? But we have our cardinal directions there now on our map, which gives us a sense kind of which direction we're going and what we're looking at here. So, what we're going to do next, now that we have that there, is we are going to go in and we are going to, well, let's start by labeling the area that is Mesopotamia. So when we talk about Mesopotamia, like I said, we're looking at the land between the rivers here. So just very neatly, very cleanly, Mesopotamia. Just going to label it right there, okay? So we've gone in, we've done the compass rose, labeled Mesopotamia, all that, right? So that's one of the kind of the main area that we're talking about here. An area very important within Mesopotamia, kind of a separate civilization that we're going to kind of study as we look at the different phases and the different time here, is what we call Sumer or Sumer. Again, here it's pronounced a couple ways. So we're going to go ahead and we are going to label Sumer. Okay. So going through and labeling that. Let's go ahead and let's look at some landforms here. Before we actually get into cities, that we're going to look at some landforms. We're going to look at some of the physical locations on this map, okay? So there are two mountain ranges that we're primarily going to look at as we go through here. There is a mountain range right over here, kind of in this area, and then there's one over here on this peninsula. Okay, and that would move on, obviously, but we're just going to make two areas that we're going to actually indicate with triangles. And before we move forward, we're actually going to go ahead and start our key over here. In a minute here, we're going to get to a dotted line, and we're going to show what that indicates. Let's go ahead and put that in. There is some triangles that we just drew, which, as you might imagine, indicate mountains. And then we're going to have dots in a little bit that are going to indicate cities, okay? We're also going to be using two different colors here, so let's just put in some boxes so that we can show what those mean, okay? So now we've got our key, we've got the mountain ranges indicated. Let's label those. So that mountain range up here is what's called the Taurus Mountains, okay? And if you want, you can just do MT to mean mountain. Okay, so we're going to have the Taurus Mountains over here. We're also going to have the Zagros Mountains over here. Okay, so on the other side of the map, we have the Zagros Mountains that we've gone in and we've indicated there. So we have 2 mountain ranges, and we're actually going to have 3 deserts that we're going to look at here. Okay, all kind of on this lower portion of the map. So this right here is a peninsula. It's largely covered on 3 sides by water here. Otherwise, piece of land, almost kind of like a mountain, but still connected slightly to the land. And this is what's called the Sinai Peninsula. Okay, and funnily enough, on the Sinai Peninsula is the Sinai Desert. So we're going to label that. It is Sinai Desert, not dessert, only 1 S. It is significantly less delicious. We're going to have 2 others here. We are going to have the Syrian Desert. And at the bottom of our map, we're going to have the Arabian Desert. So, 2 mountain ranges, 1, 2, 3 deserts. Okay. So, next thing that we're going to look at here are a couple of the cities. So, on the Tigris River, we're only going to indicate one of our cities, and that is the city of Nineveh. It's about, let's say, right around here-ish, rather north on the river, and it is the city of Nineveh. And again, I just said that the dots are going to indicate cities, right? So we can put that on our key. So we have the city of Nineveh. It's the only one we're going to label on the Tigris. And then on the Euphrates, there's actually 3 cities that we're going to look at. And down here, we have the city of We have the city of Uruk, which is a little further on. And then a little further on, we have the city of Babylon. And funnily enough, on the Euphrates River, the further north you go, the longer the name of the city is. But we have Uruk, and Babylon. And those are the cities that we're going to look at. And then obviously Nineveh off on its own. So we've got most of the labeling done here, but I'd actually like us to take a moment and come back to this dotted line. So now that we have our things labeled, we're going to come in and we're actually going to, from over here along the Mediterranean down to the Persian Gulf, we are going to draw what's called the Fertile Crescent, aka an area of particularly fertile land in through this part of the world, largely created because of the rivers here. We're just going to dot it in just lightly. Okay. And this is going to indicate the fertile, aka meaning able to support life, crescent, because it's shaped like a crescent moon. Kind of moon-shaped. So we have these. We're actually going to be using 2 other colors on our map other than the blue here. We're going to have a yellow and we're going to have a green. So the green we are going to use, and that's actually going to tie in with what we're doing with the Fertile Crescent here. So again, the Fertile Crescent is going to be in green. Okay, so we're going to go in, we're going to take our green, and we are going to shade this part of the map green. for this part is green. Now, we're going to take the yellow, and that's actually going to indicate the rest of the land indicated on the map. So the water is blue, the Fertile Crescent is green, all of the rest of the land here is going to be yellow. So we're just going to go in, and we're going to shade over this. And then we're going to obviously fill in the box here. And just go from there. So, all the rest of the land would be in the yellow then. So we've got our mountains, we have our deserts, seas, we have a gulf, two very important rivers. There is another river indicated here. That actually we are not going to deal with until we start talking about Egypt. It's the Nile River. Don't worry about it just yet, okay? But in through here, we have the rest of our map. And hopefully this gives you a better idea of kind of the area that we're talking about when we talk about Mesopotamia and kind of what's going on in this part of the world here. So, there we go. Hope it helps.